Welcome to Overwatch This. This is Jeff from the Overwatch team. Let's have fun today.
Hello everyone, I'm Matt from the Overwatch This team, and I'm joined by Ben.
That is not what we are now.
Yeah, that is what we are now.
I like that.
And welcome to another episode of Overwatch This.
47.
47.
Wow. That number has no intrinsic meaning.
Yeah. Got a few things to talk about today. We're going to start with, there's a new map on the way. We all know what it is.
Yes.
It's Junkertown. But we've had a little bit more information on it, right?
Yeah, so they released a kind of behind the scenes making of type video yesterday. It had most notably the release date for the map, which is next week, which means we'll also be getting the balance changes next week for Mercy and D.Va. We've talked about those more than anyone could possibly be interested in, and they're all detailed on the website as well if you want to go take a look. Mercies are good, D.Vas are maybe not good.
I really
Seems
like
to be
them.
the general consensus.
I really like them.
I think they are good from a game design perspective, but maybe won't make her a powerful character.
Right, okay.
Which obviously are two extremely different things. But what was in the making of / behind the scenes video was there was a little bit more info on the Queen.
Yes.
They talked about kind of where she came from. Basically she came up through the ranks, through the fighting pits.
Yeah, they've got Gladiator Arena, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And she beat up a lot of Omnics, presumably with her large hammer.
Yeah.
And now everyone respects her and fears her and thinks she's a badass.
So obviously the thing that we've all got our eye on is the fact that the Queen might become the next character, right? And I thought that video introduced a few interesting elements. A, the fact that obviously she's a trained fighter because she's been brought up through the thing.
Yeah.
Also the fact that they were saying that in this pit where they fought Omnics and stuff like that, the Junkers used to use mechs. So sort of like, that's a great ult right there.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it is super cool, and it would be interesting to see them do that kind of two-phased hero that was different from D.Va.
Yeah.
Even if it was using some fairly similar, I guess, tropes to it with a mech.
Yeah, in reverse, essentially.
But, so I think she will be a character. They've now given her a very Overwatch-like backstory. She has a hometown. She's got a voice actress. She's got a very distinctive art style. But I don't think she's going to be next. I also don't think she'll be like the one after that or even the one after that. I think she'll be the next kind of slightly long-running character that people kind of get sick of waiting for / get really excited about. And then we'll see her probably. I think BlizzCon 2018. Actually, I think so. About a year and 2 months from now, we'll see. The Queen added as a character. That gives them plenty of time to actually make her a decent character, even though I still think they were probably quite surprised by the reaction to her.
Sure.
And this video sort of felt like a response to that, where they then go, oh, here's a little more information and a little more evidence that she'll become a character. And they've started talking about her in that sort of manner as well, I think. All of that happened, and we do now know when the patch is, and that gives us a little more information about kind of the BlizzCon timeline. So the patch will come out next week. Week after that, or maybe the week after that, we would expect to see a new patch to hit the PTR. At that point, I would expect that to be kind of maybe spectator focused and esports focused, because they really need to get all that stuff out of the way, because the Overwatch League, which we're going to talk about quite a lot today, is still due to happen this year. They haven't announced any difference in that. They've announced that it's all going to be happening at the Overwatch Arena, the Blizzard Arena, which they've now opened in Los Angeles. And we would expect that to sort of kick off at BlizzCon. And we're also expecting to hear a lot more about BlizzCon. There's a live stream happening tonight, actually, that is all about kind of what's going on with BlizzCon this year. So we're expecting to hear a lot more about that. So we would see spectator changes come in as part of a patch before BlizzCon, so that they can be used at BlizzCon, so that they get plenty of testing and they look good and people can use them at home. So there's all of that to happen. That patch will come out before BlizzCon happens. That'll come out probably like 2 weeks or a week before BlizzCon. Then there is the BlizzCon patch itself. That I would expect to hit the servers slightly before BlizzCon with like some balance changes, little bits of stuff, but nothing like huge. No, like not the new hero, not any new maps or like new game modes or whatever that they tease. And then they'll update it after BlizzCon, probably on the Tuesday, into whatever the build was that was playable at BlizzCon. This is what they've done in the past. It makes a lot of sense because it means you get kind of 2 waves of hype. You get the first very community-focused wave, which will be balance changes like the Mercy and the D.Va changes, and then you get here's the new map, here's new modes or whatever that is more widespread, and obviously
the crowd pleasers,
and obviously a new hero, probably with their own cinematic short. is what we would expect again from BlizzCon.
The big thing that's going to come out of BlizzCon, aside from all of the cool crowd-pleasing sort of stuff, is the fact that this could be the start of the Overwatch League, right?
I would expect so. That's all running out of time, otherwise.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, we need to get a move on with this. We've been saying this for weeks and weeks. There's been quite a lot of news over the last few weeks about the Overwatch League. I think one of the most interesting pieces that has come up is the fact that esports brands are going to actually have to rebrand, right, for the Overwatch League. So explain a little bit how this works.
So normally you have Cloud9, and they have a Dota 2 team, and they have a League of Legends team, and their Dota 2 team is called Cloud9, and their League of Legends team is called Cloud9, and their CSGO team is called Cloud9. For Overwatch League, that they're not allowed to brand their team as Cloud9. They still own the team, in addition to all of their partners, and that's a very kind of complex investment base. But the team itself will have to be called something else, and it's based in London. It will probably be something along the lines of the London and then an Overwatch reference of some kind. Maybe even the London Tracers or something. Maybe they will name these teams after the heroes that are from that city that they're based in. Alternatively, obviously, they can name these after anything they like, but the important thing is, this has been enforced by Blizzard. They have decided that if you are in the Overwatch League, it doesn't matter who you are owned by, you need to be a new team that has its own branding and all of its own kind of logos and all of its own names and everything else, because presumably they kind of just want to have full ownership of this. And obviously this is how it works in these systems that they are basing this off. You might have a team in the NBA that is owned by the same investment group as a team in the NFL, but they don't have the same name. The Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Mavericks, I don't know if they're owned by the same team, but they're from the same place, but they don't have the same name, because that is confusing, and it gives more identity to the actual team itself and around the league itself. And then the league also can have investment in that name without worrying about it reaching out to competitors. And that is important for Blizzard, but it is really weird for esports. Like, it's completely different to how things are done. A lot of how the esports infrastructure is based is the idea of, I'm a fan of this player that plays for this team in this game, and then I end up liking their teams in all of those games because I liked that one player and I followed them. And now, I enjoyed watching Idra play StarCraft and Brood War like 10 years ago, and now I enjoy watching Evil Geniuses play Dota 2 because I just followed him to them, and then I went to their Dota team, and I quite like watching Dota 2. And all of that connection is sort of broken. Now, the teams can go, hey, this is us, don't worry, but there isn't that immediate, oh, it's Cloud9, I like them in League, I like them in whatever. So it's fairly interesting to see them do that, and I think we shouldn't be surprised that Blizzard decided to do this. Blizzard have taken a very firm stance on, this is like the NFL, this is like the NBA. But it is very strange, and seeing exactly how it plays out. And it's one of those things where if it goes well, it'll be like, well, obviously they did that, and that was a genius idea, and that led to them owning this section of esports that is now huge. But if it doesn't go well, it's another thing that people can point out and go, well, this was stupid. Obviously this meant that less people came across and were less interested in following the game.
Yeah, and you talk about things doing well, and as we know, in traditional sports and in esports, there's a lot of money that's involved. I mean, we've had some news regarding this. Just tell me some figures that are involved in this.
So there's a 17-year-old player called Sinatra. Don't know how much of a fan of Frank he is, but hopefully reasonably, if he's even heard of him at 17 years old. That means he was born in 2000, by the way, Matt. The year 2000 is when he was born. Yeah, maybe even 2001. Anyway, so there's that hell to think about. But moving on. So he's making $150,000 a year from playing Overwatch, which is $100,000 above the minimum salary, and is apparently the result of people getting into a bidding war, NRG Esports and Cloud9 getting into a bidding war as to who was going to get him to be on their team.
And obviously these are two huge esports teams with lots of money behind them, right? So they can do this war.
Cloud9 had this huge kind of investment round, and NRG has only existed for a couple of years, which means they were kind of part of this new sort of esports team that already had very high investment. That is serious money behind the operation as a whole, behind the idea of the Overwatch League. People were often talking about how much money was being demanded for team spots and for players, and that there had to be, it's like a 50k minimum, and that is actually pretty high even for esports. And this just shows that people are, the actual teams aren't worried about that, even at this early stage. And that is important. Like, this is one of those things that was a breaking point for the idea of the league, was how many people are actually willing to put this money in. No matter how good friends Bobby Kotick is with Robert Kraft, you then need to find 13 other people or whatever that are willing to put in that sort of money, and apparently they are. I mean, like 17-year-old earning 150k a year is obscene, but it is also quite low. Like a 17-year-old football player would be earning 7 figures. Like if he was as good as presumably this guy is, and was able to win games for his team. So you see that will ramp up over time. How exactly all of it's going to work in terms of salary caps and people getting paid and people being worth what they're paid, and how the money's going to change over time, and whether it can even grow from here, whether the minimums are going to go up, all of that remains to be seen. But you've got to hope that it all pays off, because if they're going to pay this guy 150k a year, he better not do some of the stuff that we see esports players doing, going online, being super toxic, like not showing up to practice or wanting to change teams very regularly and that sort of thing. So it is really interesting to see that amount of money invested in an esport that is so young. Because that isn't like for an actual esports player, 150k a year. I doubt that is in the upper echelons of how much these guys are paid. Particularly the Dota 2 guys and like the League of Legends guys and stuff. And particularly if you then take prize money into account and that sort of thing. But it is an obscene amount of money for what is an esport that is as of now unproven.
Absolutely. And in terms of kind of like the potential teams that will be involved, we don't have solid confirmation on everybody yet, but there are now rumours and sort of guesses that you can make. So what kind of teams can we expect?
So there's been rumours of 4 more teams, and that would take the total up to 14, and that is the number that will be in the first season. So those teams are an Envious team based in Austin. So Envious are they're a pretty famous CSGO team. They've had some COD teams as well. They've branched into other esports. They kind of up and down in CSGO. Like they've had very strong French rosters, but those have split, and then they just haven't really managed to kind of build that back up again. There's also a Optic team, Optic Gaming, based in Houston. Optic Gaming are a very famous Call of Duty brand, I suppose, and they've also branched out to CSGO recently and have had a very successful team, and quite kind of surprisingly successful team. So they have pedigree for building teams out of sort of nothing and just being like, and here we go, and we're good at this game now. And then a Comcast team based in Philadelphia. Now, it turns out, this isn't something that I knew off the top of my head, that Comcast have a sports brand.
Right,
They actually own, it's one of the Philadelphia teams. It's not their, I don't think it's their NBA or their NFL team, but it's it's a fairly large American sports team. And they're going to have the Philadelphia slot. Obviously, there's just an obscene amount of money there in Comcast, one of the largest telecommunications brands in the world, one of the most hated telecommunications brands in the world, but come on, anybody who's big is going to be. And then finally, there's going to be a FlyQuest team who are compared to these others, I would call them relatively unknown. They have a decent League of Legends team, but as far as I know, that's about it. A lot of these teams have individual players in a few different games, Hearthstone, Super Smash Brothers, that sort of thing. But they're going to be based in Chicago, so it'd be interesting to see how they do. Can they make this their game where they go, they are the top of the world or one of the more important teams in the world, particularly given they're an American team, and we don't know how the kind of geolocation of stuff is going to work. Is the Seoul team in Korea just going to be the best team all the time, or what's going to happen? Interestingly, all of this comes from ESPN, by the way, and you want to talk about legitimate sports brands, as ESPN reporting on this and having sources and that sort of thing is a good sign as well. That these were $20 million investments.
Wow.
Just to buy the team spot, which is obscene still. Those are the numbers we heard before, and we thought that they sounded ridiculous. We also heard $2 million and up. Exactly, which of these were worth more, presumably I would guess that somewhere like Philadelphia is maybe worth a little less than Chicago, just because Chicago's both its sports brand, thanks to the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, and also its kind of global recognition, I would say is quite different. But these are all just huge cities, so honestly they could all be worth about the same. And that takes the total to 14, including the extra 2 that were announced fairly recently, and that will that'll be the Overwatch League for Season 1.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, the amount of money that's involved and the amount of teams that are coming forward, even though it's a completely unproven esport, it just shows that popularity that Overwatch has in the overall sort of scene, people kind of have a bit of faith that it can take. Because there's been comments before that sort of maybe Overwatch just isn't a game that can become an esport.
Isn't going to work. Yeah, it's very, very possible, and it's still possible, and that's what's fascinating, what's going to be really interesting over the next year. Because if this fails,
it's a lot of money.
You want to do 14 by 20 million, and then add, say, the average player salary is 100k, okay, and then building brands and plans for the future that don't work out, and the idea of building these stadiums and trying to invest in that. And the thing is, it won't fail after a year. They can't it has to be a 4-year plan, and then if it's failed, they've got to get out. So you can times all that by 4, I mean, you're talking billions of dollars. You really are at that point. Never mind like all the sponsorship investments and all the rest. So yeah, exactly how it all plays out is going to be really interesting to watch no matter what happens. And what's interesting about that is that actually makes it more likely to be successful. Because if people want to see it fail, then they want to watch it, and then then it is a success despite the fact whatever reason it was people were tuning in originally. So.
Right. That's everything from this week's Overwatch This. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you did, give us a like and just tap that subscribe button. You can get an episode of this every week.
Every single week.
Yeah, and we normally try and make them...
Sometimes more.
Yeah, sometimes more, yeah. And we normally try and make them pretty good, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. But until next time, good luck and have fun.